There are two eggs sitting in front of you right now. One of them is from an American supermarket. It is white. It is clean. It is sitting in your refrigerator because if you leave it on the counter for 2 days, it could make you sick. The other one is from a French supermarket. It is brown. It has little speckles. It is sitting on the kitchen counter next to a loaf of bread. It has been there for 9 days. And nothing is wrong with it. Same animal. Same food. Same century of agriculture. Two completely opposite storage rules. And the reason has nothing to do with the eggs being different. Nothing to do with the chickens. Nothing to do with the climate. It is the result of one single industrial decision the United States made over 50 years ago that the rest of the world specifically chose not to make. And once that decision happened, every American egg became permanently dependent on a refrigerator. Every European egg stayed shelf-stable on a counter. Here is the truth about American eggs that the food industry has never bothered to explain to you. Every egg, when a chicken lays it, comes out covered in a thin, invisible protective layer. It is called the cuticle, sometimes the bloom. It dries within seconds and seals the entire shell against bacteria. Nature built it specifically so eggs could survive at room temperature for weeks without spoiling. For thousands of years, humans and chickens got along this way. The egg sealed itself. Nothing got in. Refrigeration was not necessary. Eggs sat in bowls, baskets, and pantries across every culture on Earth. Egyptian eggs, Roman eggs, medieval eggs, all shelf-stable, all naturally protected. Then in the 1970s, the United States Department of Agriculture changed the rule. The new requirement was simple. Every commercial egg sold in interstate commerce had to be washed before reaching the consumer. The reasoning was sanitation. American shoppers expected uniform, clean-looking eggs on the shelf. An unwashed egg might have a feather stuck to it, a bit of dirt, a natural mark. Customers might find that off-putting, so eggs began traveling through industrial washing systems, warm water, mild detergent, sometimes a sanitizing rinse. The shells came out clean, uniform, and visually perfect. There was one problem with this process the rule did not solve. The cuticle is water-soluble. Wash the egg, and the natural protective layer dissolves and rinses away with the dirt. The seal that nature put on the egg is gone. The shell goes from being a sealed container to a permeable membrane with thousands of microscopic pores leading straight into the egg. This is why your eggs need a refrigerator. It is not because eggs are fragile. Eggs are not fragile. It is because American eggs have specifically had their natural protection removed by a process the food industry chose. And now the only thing standing between salmonella and the inside of your egg is the cold air of your fridge. Cold temperatures slow bacterial growth dramatically. A washed American egg, kept refrigerated, stays safe for weeks because the cold prevents bacteria from multiplying. The same washed egg, left on a counter, becomes unsafe within days because bacteria have warmth to grow. European countries took the opposite approach. Most European Union regulations specifically prohibit washing commercial eggs. The reasoning is the exact inverse of the American rule. Do not wash. The cuticle stays. The natural protection works. The egg sits safely on a supermarket shelf at room temperature for 2 to 3 weeks, just like it could 200 years ago on a farm. Same food. Two completely different processing decisions. Two completely different storage rules. Two completely different shelf lives. But here is where it gets worse. Once American eggs required refrigeration to be safe, the entire food supply chain was built around that requirement. Refrigerated trucks, climate-controlled warehouses, dedicated cooler aisles in every supermarket, refrigerator door shelves designed specifically for egg cartons, recipes that assume eggs are cold, food safety guidance that assumes eggs are cold. The infrastructure across the entire country is now optimized for a product that needs cold storage from farm to plate. This makes the system extremely difficult to reverse. Even if washing rules were changed tomorrow, you cannot suddenly remove cold storage from a supply chain that no longer trusts eggs at room temperature, in stores that no longer have shelf space for them outside the cooler, in homes where the only place anyone has ever stored eggs is the egg compartment of a refrigerator. The 1970s washing decision did not just affect eggs. It locked the entire country into a permanent cold chain that nobody questions anymore. Now here is the part that should genuinely surprise you. American backyard chicken owners can actually follow the European model. If you raise your own chickens and your eggs have not been washed, you can store them on a counter for weeks, exactly the way Europeans do. Because your eggs still have their cuticle intact, many American chicken owners have rediscovered this and are surprised that their backyard eggs do not need refrigeration at all. The rule was never about American eggs as a category. It was about commercial washed eggs specifically. Even more interesting, Japan, Australia, and Scandinavia chose a third option. They wash their eggs like America does, but then they apply a thin protective oil coating to replace the natural cuticle. This restores room temperature shelf stability after washing. Clean appearance, uniform shells, and shelf stable on the counter. The United States chose not to adopt this approach. The reason is simply that once the cold chain was built, there was no commercial reason to add a step. Read that backwards. American eggs require refrigeration, not because there is no alternative. There are several alternatives the rest of the world already uses. American eggs require refrigeration because the country built an industrial system around an unnecessary problem and then refused to fix it because the system was already running. Compare two kitchens for a moment. An American kitchen has a dedicated egg shelf inside the refrigerator door. Eggs always live there. Taking eggs out is a deliberate step before cooking. They go back into the cold immediately after use. The whole workflow assumes eggs are cold. A French kitchen has a small bowl on the counter, sometimes next to the bread, where eggs sit at room temperature. The cook picks one up, uses it, and puts the bowl back in the same spot. There is no refrigeration step at any point. The egg has been on the counter since the supermarket and may stay there for 2 more weeks without any concern. Same food. Same century of cooking. 2 completely different relationships with one of the oldest foods humans eat. One treats the egg as a cold chain item. The other treats it as a pantry item. A Frenchman buying eggs in Chicago would be horrified to learn his usual storage method could now make his family sick. An American buying eggs in Paris would be horrified to see eggs sitting next to flour at room temperature when his entire life he has been told that is dangerous. Both reactions would be correct. Every American egg in your fridge right now is sitting there because of a single 1970s washing decision that your great-grandmother never lived to see become permanent. A decision that removed a natural protective layer that had kept eggs shelf-stable for thousands of years. A decision that built an entire cold supply chain around a problem that did not need to exist. Now you know. Where do you keep your eggs, fridge or counter? Drop it in the comments. I want to see how this actually varies across this channel. If you learned something today, share this with the next person you see throwing away perfectly good food. They deserve to know too.